In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about free agency madness with the Chicago Bears. We're talking a little Cubs, little Blackhawks, and more. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You could see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The season is going on right now, so head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you feeling after the first 7 hours of free agency?
I feel like the Bears have made a statement, obviously both with the free agency signings and the trades that they've made. We've begged them to get line help, and that's what they've been working on. And obviously, there's going to be more of an opportunity to do that in the draft as well. But they're putting themselves in a position where they're filling their lines, both lines, offensive and defensive, with proven veteran guys, some of which who have played in the big game before. And it's good to see, they're not holding back. They're going out and making these moves. They're being aggressive. And, Ryan Poles talked about being aggressive and he's holding up to his words. So it's going to be fun kind of going through these names and talk about what they've gotten so far. And also, by the way, this is indeed Alex. If I sound a little different, I've had a cold for the past week. I'm getting over it, but I am still insanely congested. So please pardon the nasally voice. Just FYI.
So that's actually Alex's doppelganger. It's but yeah, Ryan Poles, I think his quote was, when you're confident in your direction, you can be very aggressive or something along those lines. And that's what they were. So the Bears clearly didn't love the direction of free agency with some of the offensive line position, which was their biggest need. So they went out and they made two trades. They brought in Jonah Jackson, who's a very good player when he's healthy, but he's played with Ben Johnson. He was with Ben Johnson in Detroit before he signed that giant contract with the Rams. And then they traded for Joe Thuney, who is a consummate professional and can play all five positions on the offensive line. But left guard is the position that you probably want him to stick to. So you've got both of those players. So you've got that influence of a player that Ben Johnson was very familiar with his time in Detroit, and then a player that Ryan Poles was very familiar with, and Joe Thuney from his time in Kansas City. So you got those two together to help the offensive line.
Yeah, and I mean, Joe Thuney, you look at his resume, he's won 4 Super Bowls. He's won 2 with Kansas City, and he won 2 in New England. And not only that, he's been to the big game. Let's see, he made it in 16, made it in 17 and 18. And then, with Kansas City, he was there last year when they made it as well. So, I mean, this guy has been to the Super Bowl many, many times and has won 4 of them. To have that sort of experience, I mean, I think it says a lot. And when you look at what he's done in his career just outside of that, he's played in 146 games. He's started all of them. You look at games played over his whole career, really. 17, 17, 15, 17. And then he didn't miss a game from 2016 to 2020. It was still a 16 game season back then. So 16 and 20, 16 and 19, 16 and 18, 16 and 17, 16 and 16. So knock on wood, I know this would be total Bears luck to go the other way, but he's missed like all but 2 games his entire career. That durability is really quite remarkable. And over the past 3 years, 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All Pro. So in his older age, past that 30 mark, he's been very, very good and played primarily left guard in his career. But I think that just having a better guard in general in Joe Tooney, wherever you put him, left guard, right guard, that's going to be really, really good. And you would guess he'd be the left guard, right? Is that,
I'm pretty sure like
yeah.
that's his best position. I mean, that's probably where you go. Jonah Jackson has played all three interior positions as well, but you probably move him to your right guard spot. Uh, and then you call that a day.
Yeah, and if you look at Jonah Jackson's resume, you mentioned before he played with Ben Johnson. You know, he was in Detroit from 20 to 23. He was a Pro Bowler in 21. And yeah, last year he only played 4 games. And that contract for the LA Rams did not work out. It was a rough one. You know, you got 4 regular season games out of him last year. You know, you signed him to a contract where he's making a nice chunk of change, but he doesn't have the durability that, say, Joe Tooney has. His first 2 years, he played 16 games, 2020, 16 games, 21, 13 games, 22, 12, 23, and only 4 last year. But if he is healthy, that's a really nice piece you have there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd hope that they would have checked in on him and made sure everything was good before they made the trade. You'd hope.
Yes, you would, obviously. And now the other thing, too, is you look at what the Bears gave up for both these guys, and, we're not sitting here thinking, oh, this is wow, we gave up so much. I mean, look at what you traded for Joe Tooney. I think that you got a really good deal for a guy of his resume. And wasn't the Jonah Jackson trade, wasn't that basically trading the Justin Fields pick?
Yes.
So you might have turned Justin Fields into hopefully a solid, reliable offensive lineman, which you need plenty of those. So you'll absolutely take that. The other funny thing too that when I look at these two moves is you look at what Jonah Jackson did, obviously in Detroit. You don't really have much in LA because he only played the 4 games, but he started there when they were still under, oh, what's his name? The last coach they had, the guy from the Patriots. Like
Um,
again,
Matt Patricia.
Matt Patricia, thank you. That was his first year, and then Dan Campbell came in, and that first year, he became a Pro Bowler. So that was, they didn't win a lot that year. They were in a rebuild, but you saw him elevate his game. Obviously, that year he was one of the bright spots of that Lions team that year, and playing under Dan Campbell for a few years before going to Sean McVay last year, it's like, okay, you go from Matt Patricia, then you go to Dan Campbell, then you go to, though brief, uh, Sean McVay, and now you're back with Ben Johnson. So, he's worked with some notable coaches over the last few years, and what you look for in a guy like this too is not only just doing your job, but doing it smartly. What was one of the things that we talked about with the offensive line? Many of the things that were bad. Stupid penalties, right?
Stupid penalties.
Yes. And that is what you have to avoid going forward. It's more than just the scheme. It's more than the ability to just block. It's more than know your assignment. It's not committing stupid penalties. How many times did that burn them last year? More than we can
Oh,
count.
a lot. And, not only are you getting a veteran group in here, you're getting a more disciplined offensive coach, and you've got a real leader in Joe Tooney, who's going to come in there and he's going to be the quiet leader of that group and show people like this is how you do things. And that is huge. And another part of the issue the Bears had was staying healthy in order to get continuity on that offensive line because the best offensive lines stay healthy the whole year. You build continuity over the season. And the Bears just haven't had that in years.
No.
So you look at it and you're like, okay, like, I mean, you can't guarantee health of anybody, but uh, the hope is with some veterans and uh, better coaching that and some luck that you get a healthy group for the majority of the season, and this gels into a really good offensive line.
Yeah, and I was making the point about Jonah Jackson, the coaches he played for, but look at Joe Tooney. He spent the years with Bill Belichick and Andy Reid.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty.
Two of
Can you get much
the
better than that? Honestly.
spent his entire career with two dynasties.
Yes, exactly. So hopefully that experience brings something valuable to the Bears. And we know Joe Tooney is at the back end of his career. It's pretty amazing. He's been an all-pro these past 2 years, past the age of 30. But what you would like to see is you use him and get the value you can this year, and that can help you bridge into, future guys going forward beyond this coming season. So get the most what you can now, because we know he's not going to be in the league forever, obviously. Jonah Jackson, he's obviously a few years younger. He's 28 now. So if you get a healthy season of him and things work out, maybe you find yourself keeping him around longer than you initially think. His contract, I'm trying to remember, it goes through I don't remember how much guaranteed money there is, but I do believe he's here potentially beyond just next year, right?
His contract is opening it on Spot Track.
Okay, so it's there is a potential out after next year, but he does have a year in 2026.
Yes, and then he's an unrestricted free agent,
Yes.
and he will be 29 in that last season, so still in his 30s.
Yeah. In his
And,
20s.
and I'm sorry, in his 20s. And honestly, I think they're gonna give Joe Tooney an extension. I think they're probably gonna give him at least 2 more years.
You think so? Okay.
That would be my guess. Is pay him towards the time that you're gonna have to extend Caleb Williams. Because
Sure.
my feeling, and we'll get to the draft stuff in a bit, but I think I'm starting to pick up a strategy for going forward. If I what, and then we'll see where I land with that.
Okay.
Um, and then before free agency opened, they picked up tight end Durham Smythe, who was another Golden Domer. Um, and he was with Ben Johnson in Miami. So Ben Johnson knows him as well, and he also played with Cole Kmet. So they know each other. And I didn't know a lot about Durham Smythe. I remember him getting drafted. I remember him a little bit in Notre Dame, but I couldn't remember his game. And I watched, and I think he's going to be a nice addition, a pretty decent blocker. He's not gonna do anything huge in the passing game, but he finds the soft spot in the zone and gets open and is pretty sure-handed, and he's a good blocker. I think that's going to be a good compliment for Cole Kmet. I think it's going to open things up for Cole Kmet.
Yeah, I mean, what have we been looking for the past 2 years is looking for a reliable TE2, right? I mean, it didn't work with Robert Tunyon. It didn't work with Gerald Everett. So you're trying to find that TE2 where you're like, okay, bringing in an experienced guy could be a nice compliment to Komet, to your point. I mean, a few years ago we had Jimmy Graham and he was better than expected, but that was a few years ago. The past 2 years, it's just been kind of like a whirlwind of experiments that haven't worked. Obviously Mercedes Lewis, there's a tight end three, so he doesn't really count there, and he was fine in that role. But the last few years we've just been trying to sign some of these veteran tight ends and they haven't worked. So hopefully this one fares a little better than Everett and Tunyon did.
Right. And I think that's the hope. I started I started to wonder, hey, if they're going to build this whole offensive line in free agency, are they going to go for one of the couple of really good tight ends in the draft, like the one from Penn State or the one from Michigan? But they end up signing Durham Smythe before free agency opened, and it seems like that's the direction that they're trying to go with that. So we'll see how that goes. Doesn't preclude them from drafting somebody, but probably will not be a high pick, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then free agency opened today at 11 a.m. Chicago time. And the Bears wasted no time in announcing that they had signed free agent center Drew Dahlman to a 3-year, $42 million deal with $28 million in guaranteed money. I mean, that's a lot of money, but
Hmm.
I had a number in mind that I thought I didn't want them to exceed, and it's literally the number they hit, 14 million per year.
Yeah.
And Drew Dahlman is a really good center.
Yeah.
So
I mean, listen, this was what the best guy on the market, right? In terms of free agents.
yeah, well, as far as centers, yeah, he was the class in the free agent
Yes, in
class.
centers, yes, yes.
Yes, he was the class, and there was a lot of teams that wanted him. And the report is that he turned down more money to come to the Bears.
That yes, I did see that report, which is very interesting. So clearly he sees a vision here, and maybe it is the Ben Johnson effect already taking place. People want to play for Ben Johnson, and
I
that
th-
would be great.
I think it's Ben Johnson, but I also think when he knows that he's got really solid guys on either side of him, he's not going to go to somewhere where he's going to have to be the high performer. It makes it a lot easier when you've got two veteran guards on your sides. Makes your life easier.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. One thing here that I'm reading, and this is Matt Bowen's scouting report, kind of summary of him. Technician, athletic, easy mover, wins with assignment leverage, good fit for the zone run game under Ben Johnson, registered a pass block win rate of 95.1% in 2024. Those are all good things you love to hear, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that
but
sounds like a
it's
guy who is smart, athletic, and is just good at his job,
yeah, and he's an exceptional run blocker, and
which is
that's
great.
and that's what um that's what Jonah Jackson is, and that's what Joe Tooney is. And it makes me believe that the Bears under Ben Johnson are going to really try to establish a running game next season.
Which we've wanted. I mean, we needed it. The Bears' run efficiency last year was not good. You didn't have a number one type dude that could run between the tackles. We've talked about that at nauseum with what DeAndre Swift is. You didn't have the blocking to do it, and you didn't have the scheme to do it. You did not have personnel on the trench, or in the trench, I should say, or the actual running backs, or the scheme to do so. And you forced Caleb Williams to throw a lot in some of those games. I mean, more than a rookie quarterback should be throwing, but you had to because you couldn't establish a run to save your life. So, getting somebody that will help this is a big, big deal. And we know Ben Johnson in Detroit, we saw how good that run game was. Obviously, we could talk about how good the offensive line held up for Jared Goff, but I think a big reason for Detroit's success is because they could run the ball and they established that run really quickly in games.
Right. Um, so looking at where the Bears were last week when we talked, we're like, okay, they need to improve the interior offensive line. And what they do, they brought in three really good players to fill the three interior offensive line positions. Right. Okay. Where else are they deficient? Edge. So what they do, uh, they they signed Dio Odangbo, the edge rusher from the Colts, to a 3-year deal. And this one, I'm not super high on. This is clearly a signing based on potential rather than previous performance. Um, but he's a good run defender. He has not been really great at getting to the quarterback. So I'm curious of what the evaluation in Hallis Hall was of him because they signed him early and they signed him to pretty good money.
They did, and his career high in sacks is 8. Last year, he had 3 in 17 games, 14 starts. I mean, he's been in the league since 2021. He's played in 61 games, started only 19, and he's has 16 and a half total sacks in his career, 106 combined tackles, 58 solo tackles. His AV total value per football reference is 13. Last year, it was a career high 6. So you look at his age, he's only 25. And I just wonder if Dennis Allen is saying, hey, I see something here. Maybe they've watched the tape. Maybe they look at his attributes. Maybe they evaluate the scheme they want to run defensively and they look at what he brings and they say, hey, you know what? Maybe this fits going forward. Maybe we can unlock something here. I'm with you. I'm not saying, wow, great find, great move by Ryan Poles and company. But what we can hope for is, maybe he does unlock some potential. I mean, he was a second round draft pick in 2021, the 54th overall pick in the 21 draft. So, he was drafted fairly high, not like first round top 10, obviously, but he wasn't like a third or fourth round pick either.
Right. And you know, Dennis Allen, he wants to get a consistent pass rush across and not have it just be his edge rushers. He wants to make sure everybody can stop the run and get pressure. Some of the moves that he's made have been to bolster the run defense. The Bears actually did a decent job of getting to the quarterback at points last year. But stopping the run once Billings got hurt just was
Awful.
abysmal. And so Odangbo is a pretty good run defender. And then they signed a guy who was a free agent for like 3 hours in Grady Jarrett, the defensive tackle from the Atlanta Falcons. They signed him to a 3-year deal. So you bring in another guy that has been at a Pro Bowl level, and sure, his best years are behind him, but he's there. I don't think they're looking for him to be a starter. I think if you look, they're bringing in waves. So Odangbo is a guy. Is he like, he's not a guy like, what's his name from Cleveland, Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett, who
He's,
just got the bag after saying he wanted to get traded.
you know what, is $40 million a year makes you think different.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, look, it's crazy. I mean, this market as a whole for pass rushers and defensive linemen, you saw what Max Crosby got, and now you saw what Myles Garrett got, and holy hell, if you want to make some money in this league, this position is a good place to start.
Oh yeah, I already took my daughter out today and I'm teaching her pass rush moves.
You're just out at the local football field and you got the big dummies and you have like a scarecrow, like a shoddy scarecrow with a football in his hand pretending to be a quarterback.
I'm teaching her swim moves and stunts. Like, I want to retire, sweetie.
Sweetie, I'll be good, you'll be good, and your kids will be good. Just learn this position.
But yeah, what you've got is a bunch of guys that can defend against the run and be able to rush the passer. Um, and uh, you're not precluding yourself from, like a Myles Garrett. You've got to give him like 80% of the snaps.
Right.
With the way the Bears are built right now, Grady Jarrett doesn't have to be a starter, and he might not be a starter. They're going to pay him like one, but you're going to rotate through. It gives you that rotation of of Jervon Dexter, Andrew Billings, Grady Jarrett, and when somebody comes out, it's not like, oh man, we took out Andrew Billings for a breather. Let's run the ball. It doesn't matter now. You've got run defenders and you've got guys that can push the pocket in from the defensive tackle position. And on the edge, you could still draft at number 10, you could still draft an edge rusher and just build that rotation of Austin Booker and Odangbo and Sweat and whoever at 10 and just do like what Philadelphia did and just bring that pressure constantly.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing to bring up about Grady Jarrett is that you look at his career too. He missed some games in 2023, but outside that, he's been fairly healthy too. He's been able to stay on the field. So last year he played all 17 games. Like I said, he missed a number of games, only played 8 and 23. 22, 17 games. 21, 17 games. 2020, all 16. 2019, all 16. And those years back to back, 1920, he was a Pro Bowler. 2018, 14. 2017, 16. 2016, 14 starts, 16 games. And then his rookie year, 15 games, 2 starts. So for the most part, he stayed on the field.
Yeah. So I mean, looking at what we identified from the Bears' positions of need, we got interior offensive line. We fixed that. We have edge. I don't know if we fixed it, but we addressed it.
You'll
Tight
need
end.
more.
Tight end, you addressed it. Defensive tackle, addressed it. So right now that leaves you uh with running back, wide receiver 3, and safety as I think the most needy positions at this point. And safety, that's not like a super need. You feel good about your starters. You just don't know about their health. You want to get better depth. Wide receiver 3, that you can address quickly in the draft. And running back, you can address that in the draft. And suddenly you don't have any gaping holes on your roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you would basically flip most of the trenches right there. And one thing that I do want to bring up really quick is we're talking about pass rush. You're probably going to guess where I'm going with this, but we were kind of, sort of counting on, confident in, if you will, however you want to put it. There was a lot of smoke around Khalil Mack coming back, and that didn't happen. He went back to the Chargers on a 1-year deal, and I think that Khalil Mack might, try one more year and evaluate where he goes from there, if he retires or not. But it felt like there was a lot of smoke around a Mack reunion. There were people chattering about it. There were, reporters even bringing it up. But, he signed with the Chargers, 18 million, and I'm admittedly a little bummed that they didn't bring him back, but I can also understand not giving a guy at his age 18 million a year. Obviously, you're paying other guys pretty solid money here that are older, with some of the moves they made, but um, I'm kind of not surprised they wouldn't go that high for a Khalil Mack reunion. Maybe 15 at the most, but 18, I'm a little bummed he's not back, but I kind of am not surprised that they didn't go 18 million for 1 year there. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I figured I'd just bring that up.
I was fully in the bring Khalil Mack camp or back camp, but I agree with you. I don't think I would bring him in 1 year, $18 million. That's a lot of money. You're bringing in a guy that's 25 years old, and um, as much as it would be cool to have Mack back, I think looking at this for the long haul, you brought in a guy with a lot more upside. Not saying Khalil Mack is bad or anything at this point, but he's got a lot of miles on him. And, um, you know, and to pay him $18 million and get 1 year, I don't know. Plus, he signed before the Bears could have addressed him. He signed before free agency opened, so you didn't even get an opportunity. So I mean, it's clearly sounds like he wanted to stay in with the Chargers. So good on him, and I hope he does. He has a good year. I've always liked Khalil Mack, and I hope he has a good year this year.
Yeah, I do too. Yep. So, oh well, it is what it is. Kind of a bummer, but oh well.
Um, so then, looking at where the Bears are, they brought a couple of their free agents back. Um, they brought back Aman Agban brought him back. Strong free agent. I'm sorry, special teamers. They brought back Chris Williams on our restricted free agent tender, so they haven't officially signed him, but someone would have to pay him a lot of money, and I don't think they will.
I don't think so either.
And then Josh Blackwell, they did sign to a 2-year deal.
That fake touchdown against the Packers got him paid.
Yes. I would expect Scott Daly to probably re-sign because they do not have a long snapper currently.
Ah, who needs a long snapper? Just
Um,
score touchdowns every time.
yeah, there's two more players that they have not brought back yet that I'm I thought they would. Is Jack Sanborn and Jalen Jones. Those are two players I like, and um, I'm unsure of why they haven't brought them back. Man, maybe Hallis Hall feels a little differently than I do, but and maybe Jack Sanborn is hitting the Nick Kwiatkowski route where he's too good to be a backup, but you don't want to pay him a bunch of money because you probably don't want him to start either.
Yeah, I liked Jack Sanborn. I was kind of hoping that he'd stick around, but is it possible too that maybe, as weird as it sounds, and I know this is cliche and can be overused and has screwed over the Bears in the past, but is it possible that like Dennis Allen just didn't see a fit in his scheme with his style of play? I don't know. I'm not a linebackers expert per se, but you are going from a 3-4 to a 4-3. I mean, I don't personally see why it would be an issue, but the coaches know better. Is that a possibility?
No, he's got a room in here. My thing is, uh, you, I wonder if Dennis Allen wants them to cover more, and that's the weak spot of Jack Sanborn's game is covering guys in, uh, as a route runner. He's a really good at diagnosing and making tackles on run plays, but he falls apart a little bit in pass coverage. So I wonder if that's the thinking there is they're going to try to go younger, more athletic, faster, um, and get somebody there. But Jalen Jones, if they bring him back, I think their cornerback room is pretty complete. You just brought back everybody on a really good group.
Yeah, I think so too. Plus, I mean, your number one guy is one of the top in the game, so you feel pretty good there.
Yeah, and your slot guy is one of the top in the game too.
Good problem to have.
Yeah. So cornerbacks, I'm feeling pretty good on. Safety, I would like to bring in another young safety somewhere in the
Me
middle of the
too.
draft. Um, I feel, you could probably add to your linebacker core as in depth, not a starter. Um, your defensive ends, if you stood pat, I think you're okay. Um, but if you bring in somebody, I still would not complain. Same thing with defensive tackle because you're probably going to keep 4 defensive tackles, and I wouldn't be sad if Zach Pickens didn't make it and you upgraded over him. But 3 out of your 4, I'm pretty happy with. Uh, Quarterbacks, you've got 3. I think you'll probably stick with that. Um, Your tight end room, you got Cole Kmet, Durham Smythe, Jordan Murray, and Joel Wilson. I would imagine you could upgrade there, or um, there's nothing stopping you from bringing back the old man for one more season. Um, you feel good about your starting line, and you're starting to feel better about your depth too, because Bill Murray, who you like, is still there. Ryan Bates, who you liked as a starter for last year, is back at depth. Um, Amagaji, who Greg Gabriel is still very high on. I know he had a rough start, but you missed all of training camp. Is coming from a small football school. It's going to take him time to adjust and
He was
not
thrown to the
having training camp.
wolves.
He
That
really
that
was.
Vikings game, that infamous Vikings game, he was thrown to the wolves.
Yeah. So I feel like you have the whole off season and training camp that he's going to be better. You got him at depth. And then Theo Benedette, the Canadian Eagle. Um, I really liked that signing, and I said that I think he's a guy that they're developing for the future. I think he's going to be a pretty decent offensive lineman. He is a big, strong guy. And I think that's what they're seeing him as a project. So don't be shocked if Theo Benedette isn't in the mix there for one of the backup spots. So offensive line, you know, they're starting to get a full roster. I still would like to see some young guys in the middle of the draft, uh, be, because I think the plan here, and I alluded to it earlier, is going to be pay guys right now to stabilize everything and
Mm-hmm.
then develop guys that are cheaper for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, and that's
that's
what I was kind of alluding to earlier when I was talking about like Tooney. You're not going to have him much longer, and even if you do get an extension, it's not going to be 4+ years. So I definitely agree with you.
um long snapper, you don't have one, but you can just get one, and you've got your former one, and you've got the one from last year. You've got two to choose from. That's not a big deal. But for me, I'm starting to look at running back. You've got Ian Wheeler, who you really liked, who got hurt last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson. So I don't think you're deficient there. Like if you went into the season with those guys and maybe a later round pick, I think you would be fine. Um,
I really want a dude.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying is if you were like, all right, you know what, we're gonna go a dude at wide receiver and have three dudes. Okay, I'm not gonna argue there, and then just go with a later running back. I'm not gonna argue, but um, I'm looking at this, and I think wide receiver becomes a spot. I mean, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore are very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
After that, you drop significantly. So
Yeah.
you are one injury away from having kind of a shitty wide receiver core.
Yeah.
So I think wide receiver moves up to like your number one need. Running back up there, some more uh depth at offensive line, another edge rusher and a safety. I think those become your needs.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
So I just quickly started re-looking at that number 10 pick. And what's nice is at number 10 right now, I have no idea what the Bears are going to do. I mean, a week ago, I'm like, man, they've got to go edge rusher or offensive lineman. They have to. And now I don't think they have to. I think they have the flexibility to do whatever they want.
Yeah, it's a bit more open. And this was kind of what I was hoping for, was to be in a situation where you didn't feel the need to draft a certain thing or one of two certain things. You have options now. You have flexibility, like you said. It's better than being in a position where you feel like you might have to reach for something when you don't necessarily have to now.
Right. So, and also if somebody comes up to you with a trade, like last year, you weren't moving. In fact, unless you were moving up because you got your guy, Caleb Williams, at number one. And then you, at number nine, you got Roma Dunze, and he was the guy you wanted. And, the kind of the famous story from Hard Knocks was Ian Cunningham talked Ryan Poles out of trading up to get Roma Dunze. So
Hmm.
that was the guy they wanted. And at this point right now is you could just sort of sit back and you're like, all right, whatever's going to happen. I guess you could be aggressive and go get a guy if you wanted him, but yeah, you could just sit back and sort of see who's there and how the board plays out. And you could even, if there's a guy that falls that you're not in love with, like say there's somebody that is doesn't want to pony up to trade up to like 2, 3, 4, and Shador Sanders falls, which very likely could happen. And a team could just be like, you know what, 10 we can do. We can trade it for 10. That's not going to kill us. Trade up and get Shador Sanders, and you're the Bears. You're like, okay, that's cool with us. We can move back because that middle of the pack is really about preference and not about so much about talent. Not that there's not talented guys, but when you this is a weird ranking and I've looked at like Daniel Jeremiah, I've looked at PFF, I've looked at like some like bigger draft people, and you look at their top like 30 draft picks and they're just wildly different because
Hmm.
that middle order, it's kind of preference. Um so if you're the Bears, like you're like, you know what, 10 versus 20, we're getting the same caliber of player and we're going to get, another a bite at the apple in the second or third round to move down. So that's a realistic possibility as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I quickly, just based on the free agents that moves the Bears have made so far and the trades that they've made, where they're at as of 8 o'clock on Monday night, um,
On
my
March 10th.
March 10th, uh, in the year of our Lord 2025, I made a list of the guys that I would draft at 10 if they were available. Not in any particular order, but I just started going through. Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State. He's a beast. And I don't care if he has a foot injury, he's a beast. I would take him in a heartbeat if he fell to 10. In fact, if he fell anywhere outside the top 5, I would be making a trade up to try to get him
You're
because
that high on him. All right.
yeah, that rotation of Austin Booker, Odangbo, Sweat, and Abdul Carter is Philadelphia Eagles last year level of get after the quarterback. Jalen Walker, another edge rusher. He is a um he is a lot like the guy from the Cowboys. So very versatile, very fast. He's a guy I like. Um, and then uh, Ashton Genty. This is where things get interesting. Is Ben Johnson is very clear wants to run the ball,
Hmm.
and the more I watch Ashton Genty, my criticisms of him were, all right, it's not playing for a small school necessarily. Like they've become a powerhouse, but you're not playing in the Big Ten or the SEC. And also, does he have home run speed? So I start watching him more and more. And honestly, he breaks way. I started comparing him to like Saquon Barkley in college. He breaks significantly more tackles than Saquon Barkley did. And speed wise, they're almost identical in their 40 time, 4.40 and 4.42. So he does have that speed, and he is just breaks through blocks. And I'm like, you know, what if we could add a guy of that caliber to the
Oh yeah, a lot
Bears?
of people are thinking that. I mean, I sure think of that too.
It's just watching him break tackles and spin out of tackles. It is like it's kind of like a combination of David Montgomery meets Jameer Gibbs.
Mm,
And he is fast enough to outrun you, but I was listening to a comment about from Marshawn Lynch about him, and he's like, there are guys that just come and smash you in the face and make you don't want to tackle them, and that's Genty. And I was like, you know, we used to have a guy who, if you were bracing to hit him hard, he made you look stupid with a spin move or outrunning you, and if you tried to be ready for a move, he was going to smash right through you, and he turned out to be pretty good. And his name was Walter Payton.
hmm.
I'm not saying Ashton Genty is Walter Payton because that's a stupid thing to say. And
Yeah.
and Ashton Genty listed his top 5 running backs of all time and didn't list Walter Payton, which makes me mad. But he's really good.
Yes, he is. Yes,
And a,
he is.
and a week ago at this time, I was like, no way. I don't care how much they fix other holes. I'm not going running back uh in the first. So um I'm I would there's good running backs later on. The one from Iowa, the one from Ohio State. They're good running backs. And now after today, I I've been watching Ashton Genty clips, and I'm just like, I wouldn't be mad about it.
I mean, tell me this. Let's say he fell and the Bears were picking. Does it kind of feel like at that point where it would be stupid to pass up on that?
It's weird. You look at the rankings, and he might be one of the top 3 or 4 players in the draft, just agnostic of position, just
Yes.
best players. He's probably somewhere in top 3, 4, maybe 5. But based on positional value, I don't think him going to 10 is necessarily falling. Because I don't think, um, let's see, I'm just going to go through the order here. Um, so he's not going number 1 to Tennessee. That's just not going to happen. He's not going to 2 to Cleveland. He's not going to 3 to the Giants. I would be shocked if he went 4 to Tennessee. So, um, is he going to go 5 to Jacksonville? I guess that's a possibility, but I think they have bigger needs than that. Raiders at 6. All right, you could sell me on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would be shocked if 7's the Jets. I don't know. Carolina's a wild card. 9, New Orleans. No, they're not taking a running back. So it goes Bears. 11 at San Francisco. No. Dallas 12. So, I mean, honestly, for me, 6, 8, 10, 12 are the spots. After that, man, he could fall a bit if he doesn't go there. But I don't think he does. I don't think he makes it past 12. He's too good a running back to fall that far. The next guy I have at 10 I would draft is Mason Graham. You look at him in the combine, probably at his pro day, and you're not going to be blown away. He's not that fast. He's not that quick or athletic. But you put on those Saturday tapes and you just watch him whip everybody's ass day in, day out. Doesn't matter who they're playing. he whips their ass. He is a football player. It doesn't matter what he's like as an athlete. He's a damn football player. And you put him in that rotation because he can rush the passer and stop the run. He can do both. So he is a 4-down kind of guy. So you put that rotation of Billings and Garrett and Dexter and Graham. That is the best interior defensive line in football, probably. Um, Will Campbell. Again, that changes the math of this a little bit because he was a left tackle in college. His arms are a little short to play left tackle. Not saying he can't. They are right at that cusp. They are like that is the exact length that they start to be suspect of you. So, um, I, if you want to try him out at left tackle and have him be competition for Braxton Jones, all right. And then he could, I don't know, it's hard to have him sit for a year. You're probably expecting him to start, but an injury could happen and you've got a guy that's a beast. Then Tet McMillan, the wide receiver. He's a big body guy. He's probably the best wide receiver in the draft. And then a real wild card. Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State. He was their entire offense this year, basically. So, and teams still couldn't stop him. And the way the tight end, the last couple of years, you've had tight ends go really high in the first round, and they've worked out extremely well. I'm not mad about it.
So you said no particular order.
No particular order.
Is there one that you prioritize over all of them?
Abdul Carter. He's an elite edge rusher. Like
That's fair.
He's a dude. He's one of those guys that just changes your entire defense. Not that I'm not knocking any of those other ones. I would take any of these, but he's a dude that if he should be one or two, and I have not seen a single big board where he's not one or two. And the other person that competes with him is Travis Hunter, who is the best cornerback and possibly the best wide receiver in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And that dual threat moves him up on some people's board, but nobody has him outside of the top two and the big board. Does he get drafted in top two? That's the thing, because Cam Ward is not a top 10 player in this draft, and he's going to go probably number 1 or number 2 because of the need of quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But Abdul Carter might slip a little bit because of the foot injury. But he's a guy. If for some reason he's there at 10, then you had better send like Carl Lewis to turn that pick in. That's how fast you should get to the podium.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm being cautiously optimistic because there's a lot can go wrong still. And we all saw how the last time the Bears signed a big free agent offensive lineman, how that worked out. Might have been the most abysmal free agent signing the Bears have ever had.
Definitely up there.
So anything can go wrong, but I think they are doing their best to plug holes and allow for best player available when they get to the draft. Give them a lot of flexibility. You're not painting them in the corner. And that's kind of the thing. A lot of teams, you get painted in a corner, and that's when you mess up drafts.
Yes, exactly.
Is when especially when you're like, you're not good, but you're not the worst. So you're like that number 10 pick, and you're like, man, we need a left tackle. And there's really only two elite left tackles, and they're gone off the board already. So I'm drafting a guy that's probably on most people's in their 20s. I'm reaching for him. And that's when you start reaching for players, that's when things go off the rails.
Mm-hmm. And you tend to overthink when you reach too.
Yep. When you need somebody, you reach, you overthink, and you know, look how quickly the Lions turned around. Sure, they had a better coaching staff and better philosophy, but man, in one draft, they hit on their top four picks, and all four became significant starters
Mm-hmm.
right off the bat. That's how you turn it around, is you hit on those draft picks. They just
Yep.
you get a guy. It doesn't matter what position. There's the Lions signed a free agent running back and they signed a free agent linebacker. They they drafted where they signed free agents, but they hit. They hit on those guys and it paid off. And that's what the Bears need to do. It doesn't matter what position you draft. The guy has to hit. So, I'm looking at it. If a left tackle was there, the problem is the um, Will Campbell is the only left tackle worth taking at 10. And he, I think, is going to be a guard in the long term. So I don't know how they view him. The other tackles that are really good are right tackles. So I don't know if you take a tackle, offensive tackle, in that 10 spot other than Will Campbell. But there's so many good players, and I'm sure Cam Ward is 100% going to be gone by the time they get there. And I'm going to guess Shador Sanders is going to be gone too. So that's going to push two really good football players down the board for you to get.
Yeah. Like you said, you got the flexibility now. You're in a good position. And I think that the fact that they were aggressive, they knew that they could put themselves in that position. And I'm just looking at all these moves they've made so far. And Ben Johnson is having a say in a lot of this on the offensive line. You see the influence there. I mean, he brought in one of his former guys, and I'm sure that he had a lot of good things to say to Ryan Poles about him, and I'm sure that there was plenty of his tape he showed him, and the fact that he can confidently bring him back even after an injury-riddled year last year and put him into his system, I think that a lot of that is Ben Johnson.
Um, yeah. So, Larry Borum is gone. No longer a Bear.
Oh, where'd he go?
Dolphins.
Huh. Huh.
Um,
Salute Larry Borum.
yeah. I'm not mad at him. He
No,
was
neither am I.
mid to like a late round pick, and the Bears got more than the draft pick value for him. So, good. I hope he got paid.
Yeah, good for him. Good
Mhm.
luck to him.
Um, yeah. So for me, the Bears just have to hit. They have to hit on these draft picks. That's the bottom line.
I mean,
Is
it's crucial.
you've
Yeah,
got
yeah.
you've got three picks in the top 41 picks. Those three guys, bare minimum, have to be significant contributors to your team.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, I know people be like, well, you look at the Eagles and they don't draft non-premium positions. They draft those premium positions, and then that's how they keep doing things. And sure, that's a philosophy, but it doesn't, I don't think it matters as much. It's just as long as you are hitting on picks. That's where it is the number I want to see with between the Bears and the Eagles is the Bears roster is about 35% draft picks. The Eagles are about 50%. That's where I want to get to. I want your
Uh-huh.
half your team to be made up of or more of draft picks. So, and I think you can get there. It's once you've hit on some draft picks, it makes it easier because you look historically, bad draft, you redraft players. Oh, your running back failed, you're redrafting running back. And if you start hitting on guys more frequently, you're doing less of that. So then you start, all right, well, I hit on this running back. So I've got him for 4 years. Now, next year, I've got him 3 more years, and I can go after a different position. I'm not redrafting. That position's crossed off. I can go after a safety. I hit on that one. All right, let's go wide receiver. And it's being better at drafting. And, honestly, it's I'm less concerned about, you look at some of the Bears previous GMs and you're like, oh, that guy was really good at hitting on 5th round picks. Okay. I don't care. Hit on first and second round picks. Crapshoot the rest of them. I don't care. Hit on the first and second round picks, and then, then come talk to me about your 5th and 6th rounders.
No, I totally agree. Because you hit on those guys, those are higher ceiling guys. Not that you can't find elite players later in the draft. We see it happen all the time, but if you're hitting on your top picks, you're drafting those guys up there for a reason.
Man, Chase Young got paid.
Oh boy, what do you get?
3-year, $51 million.
Whew. Boy.
Kyle Juszczyk is getting released. Cooper Kupp is about to be released. And
Yep.
crazy. So yeah, I mean, I don't expect the Bears to be super active in this rest of this first round of free agency. I think they'll probably re-sign a long snapper, one of the two. And maybe you see their one of their own free agents re-sign. I'm curious of what their opinion on Keenan Allen is.
I wonder that too. Last year was such a mixed bag because you saw him do some good things, but you also saw him with a lot of big drops that just was out of character for him.
Yeah, the guy is an exceptional route runner.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder what happens if you put him in with a offensive coordinator that can just get him, scheme him open, plus with his ability to run routes, what he could do. And, I don't know if the Bears are drafting a wide receiver in the top 3 picks. So that takes away the pressure if you re-sign him. I don't think he's going to get crazy money. He's already basically said he's playing for the Chargers, the Rams, or the Bears, or he's retiring. He's come out and said that. I doubt he goes to the Rams because they just signed Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm. He stopped following his goofy ass friend.
Thank God. And I don't, maybe the Chargers he could go back to, but I think it's almost like Bears or bust. So, you offer him like $12 million a year or something. And then that number 3 wide receiver becomes your biggest need. Suddenly it's not really that big of a need anymore. And sure, would you love to have a speedster help, your offense? Yeah, sure. But that's not stopping you from drafting a guy that's speedy, with your 3rd round pick or your 5th round pick or whatever you have.
I'll say this, if you had the choice between the wide receiver core as it is now, or the wide receiver core as it is now plus Keenan Allen, I would obviously take having Keenan Allen back. I'm just wondering that in the draft somewhere you're able to find a younger, more in prime alternative. If you saw more consistency last year from Keenan Allen, I would be more than happy to bring him back. But like I said, you just saw so many big drops last year, and he's not getting any younger. So, maybe if it's just down to these few teams and the Bears the only ones that's going to give him a chance, you could get him at a good price. But I don't know. Like I said, I'd rather have him than not if it's going to be basically the rest of this. Like if your choice is Tanner Scott versus Keenan Allen, I'm taking Keenan Allen.
Yeah. So, like Ted McMillan from uh, Arizona is, I mean, outside of, I take Travis Hunter out of that. I think he's going to play cornerback mostly because he's a really good wide receiver, but he is an exceptional cornerback. Tat McMillan is your best wide receiver, and he's very Roma Dunze-ish. So you don't want to draft two of the same guy.
You don't want to be
Um,
redundant, right?
you've got Luther Burden, who PFF ranks as the 15th best player. So you draft him at 10, you're overdrafting him. He's not going to be available at in your second pick, in your second round pick. Uh, Amika Agbuka from Ohio State. He was really good. I like him. Um, he's is he a wide receiver one in the NFL? Probably not, but he's a really good number two. Um, but he's not going to be there by the time you pick your second pick. Matthew Golden, um, he's a good wide receiver, uh, but he's probably gone by the time you pick. So then where you look at Io Minor from Stanford, um, he's I guess you could do that. Jack Betch from TCU, uh, but he's sure-handed, but I think he's gonna get he's not strong enough to really be jump in right off the bat and help you out. Um, and then Higgins from Iowa State, and then after that, it drops, pretty significantly. Then, so this is not the best draft for wide receivers.
No, it's not. There's no Malik Neighbors that people are talking about. There's like Roma Dunze that people are talking about. That we saw last year. We saw a number of high profile wide receivers last year in the draft, and like quarterbacks, it's just different from last year. You're not getting
This,
a lot of those, but you're getting deep in a number of other positions. That's for sure.
yeah, this or this quarterback class is not as bad as the Kenny Pickett year, but it's arguably one of the worst I've seen in a long time. Like Cam Ward, I think would be all right. He's got um if you can get him in the right mental space physically, he's got all the tools. If you can get him in the right mental space, you've got something. I don't love Shador Sanders. Um, and then after that, like Jalen Milrow, ugh.
Hmm.
um, Will Howard, ugh. Riley Leonard, ugh. um,
Pretty much sums it up.
maybe Jackson Dart. I mean, I don't know, man. This draft class is, I think you're going to get two in the first round just out of necessity. But man, this is a Bobo quarterback draft.
Yeah.
Um, Same with center drafts. People, would I like to see the Bears draft a center and develop one? Sure, but the best, the best center in this draft, Pro Football Focus has as the 100th best player, and the second one is 165th. So there's only in the top 200 prospects, there's three centers.
Wow.
But you look at running backs, Genty, O'Marion Hampton. Cam Scatabo, Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, Caleb Johnson, Travion Henderson, R.J. Harvey, DJ Giddens, Devin Neal. Like those are all in the top 100 at running back.
Yeah, I mean that's quite a difference in volume.
So, it's going to be interesting to see how the Bears play this out because if they play it cool, I think I think they could come out with a really good football player at number 10 or the ability to trade back and pick up some draft capital.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very, very excited to see how this turns out. Last year we knew what they were doing with the number one overall pick. The question is, what would they get at number nine? Would they get Roma Dunze? Would they go elsewhere? Now just the possibilities are endless.
And there's a guy running back. I would love to see the Bears pick up a running back in the top first 3 rounds.
I think you have to. At
Um,
some point, I really do think you have to.
and I
You need
don't
to
think this
you
is
need to give
the
yourself all the weapons to run the ball.
and there's a guy who's a really good running back. I watched a lot of him in college, and the Bears fans would fall in love with this guy. I don't
Why
think
is
he's
his
going
name
to.
Swerski Meatball?
Oh my God, it's Cam Scatabo.
Ah,
He
that is fun.
he is a white running back that he runs like a faster Michael Allstott. Like he is just a grinded out guy that loves to play football and loves to hit people. And he he is he fast? No. Is he super athletic? Not really. But you watch that film and you're just like, man, Cam Scatabo can play football. And Bears fans would lose their minds about him because he would be such a fan favorite. You would see so many Scatabo jerseys.
Look how many
And
people love Tyson Bagent, for goodness sakes.
yeah, but Cam Scatabo is actually a good football player. And like what if where does
That guy's got that TWTW.
he's a TW guy. Um Cam Scatabo, Pro Football Focus has him ranked as the 52nd best player in the draft. Um
Wow.
Here's what they say. Scatabo plays the game in a manner that is easy to love, with a massive chip on his shoulder. NFL teams will gravitate towards his mentality, balance, tackle breaking ability, and after contact consistency. He has the physical makeup of a 3 down back. But just watch him play. The guy just like he looks for contact. He wants to smash you. He wants to hurt you as a running back. And like so much they like at one point at late in the season, um, Arizona State, they lost their number one wide receiver, and they basically had to go to Cam Scatabo. And I think they were playing Arizona because it was like a really good matchup. And Arizona knew what they were doing, and they just couldn't stop Cam Scatabo. Like, just couldn't stop him. Um,
It sounds like you're making that name up. It's so funny.
just the guy is ridiculous. Cam Scatabo. Uh, he like he's stupid good. Um, but he's just not the guy that I would pick for the Bears based on their offense. But there are teams out there that like you're just like, I can't wait to have a Cam Scatabo. Um, yeah, just he only had 2 drops all season. Um, just yeah, the grades on him. 13 games played. He had almost 6 yards a carry, 21 touchdowns, 44 receptions. Like he's just a really good hard-nosed back. Like like if the Lions wanted to take him and cut uh David Montgomery, no one would miss David Montgomery because they would have Cam Scatabo.
I hear like meatball lust in your voice every time you say his name.
If the Bears picked him in like the second or third round,
I'd
part
probably
of me
hear you shrieking in the Chicago wind
I would I would be ordering a Cam Scatabo jersey.
right away. Oh, you're gonna do that. You're gonna do the jinx, the Jersey jinx right away.
There you cannot jinx Cam Scatabo. He just he waits for it and he eats that up. There's no stopping Cam Scatabo. You could just only hope to contain him.
Is this a SpongeBob character or something? I mean,
He's a real guy. His name is Cam Scatabo.
you love this guy already. I like it.
Uh,
Yeah, what? Hey, for all I know, Ben Johnson could be at House Hall right now, pounding on Ryan Poles' desk. We need Cam Scatabo right now, right here. Ben, the draft isn't for another month or so. I don't care. We need him now.
Yeah, there's if you look him up and do like a Google image search, one of the first images that comes up is against Texas. And the Texas player has a firm grasp on his face mask and he's reaching underneath the face mask and just mushing the guy's face.
Is he giving him the Mo Howard treatment, poking him in the eyes?
No, he has just got straight face. uh he is just mushing this guy and the guy has him and he's just and it's like if you just were to take out the ball from the picture you would assume that this was and like a linebacker going after a tight end in the opposite way that you think, and really the guy that you think is the linebacker is really the running back and he is just mushing the defensive player. it's It's you are taking Paul Bunyan as running back. Cam
God.
Scatabo. I've talked myself into Cam Scatabo. You know this, right?
I clearly
Cam Scatabo. Uh, let's see. It was game logs here. Um, yeah, the Arizona game was he had 177 yards rushing and 8.4 yards per attempt. That was after their top wide receiver went down. And he helped beat Arizona, who was a really good team, 49-7. Against Iowa State, he ran for 170 yards and 10.6 yards per carry.
how many faces smooshed under a face mask? Do they
I
have
mean,
that stat for him?
they don't, but I don't know if that's a real stat, but it should be.
Cam Scatterbo is going to make that a real stat.
Yeah, let's see. Against Mississippi State, he ran for 262 yards. Against Kansas, 182 yards. Against Utah, 158 yards. Against Oklahoma State, 153. Against BYU, 147. Against Arizona, 177. Against number 16, Iowa State, 170. Against number 5, Texas, 143. And 90 in that game where they went into double overtime against in the playoffs. He ran for 143 yards, 99 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns.
Well, I mean, these are impressive numbers.
Cam Scatabo.
You're going to be
Only
saying
one.
his name in your dreams tonight.
He
And
had
he's
one lost fumble all season long.
and clearly he only lost because he got distracted by something. He would never.
He was probably mushing somebody. He ran for over 1,700 yards and lost 1 fumble. That's a guy. That's a Cam
That's
Scatabo.
that's impressive. Yeah.
Love it. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I think the Bears are probably done with until later in the week once things have got cooled down a little bit. I'm pretty sure Tevin Jenkins is gone.
Kind of feels that way.
Um, I'm assuming either Patrick Scales or Scott Daly will be back, one of the two. Um, yeah, it's I think they're probably done for the time being, and then you might see them add some more in that later wave of free agency.
Yep, I would imagine so.
Um, yeah, let's see. Is there anything new that just came through? Anything breaking? Da, da,
Cam
da.
Scatabo has been named the NFL's next great top player, even though he hasn't played a single game yet.
He is Cam Scatabo. Get
Adam Schefter just tweeted that.
Oh yeah, so I forgot. Justin Fields going to the Jets.
Getting a nice payday too. What, $40 million for two
Yeah, two
years?
2 year $40 million. Good for him.
Yeah, make that bank.
So this quarterback carousel is kind of weird. Like
Where's Russell Wilson gonna go? Where's
I
Aaron Rodgers gonna go?
so let me go through the NFL here. Um, so Bills, Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots are set at their quarterbacks now. Now that the Jets have Justin Fields. Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders all now set at quarterback after the Geno Smith trade. And the Geno
But
Smith one was weird.
but
They,
weren't they saying they could still go after another QB?
I mean, I think people say that. I don't think they will. They maybe like if you're not getting Shador Sanders or Cam Ward, you are just basing it drafting a guy hoping that he can be a number two, like a backup quarterback in this league because there's no chance of anybody being a starter.
Yeah.
But Geno Smith was offered a contract extension. He turned it down, so they traded him. And they signed Sam Darnold to a little bit less than what they offered Geno Smith, and he took it. So
After trading DK Metcalf.
yeah. DK Metcalf, that one's funny. I sent a friend of mine, a meme, and it said, DK Metcalf on there, said, wanted to be traded to A, a contender, B, warm weather city, C, stable quarterback situation. Gets traded to Pittsburgh. Um, Ravens, good at quarterback. Steelers, I don't believe have a quarterback on their roster,
No.
but the rumor is they are very close to signing Aaron Rodgers.
Boy. I wonder how that and Mike Tomlin's gonna go.
Well, that you add in George Pickens and DK Metcalf, and or Mike Tomlin is just going to be waking up in cold sweats at nights, thinking about how he's just what kind of shenanigans that he's going to have to walk into when he goes into the building the next day.
Mentally, he's gonna be what he did during that press conference when he got asked about his contract status and he just walked away.
Bengals static quarterback. What is the Browns quarterback situation?
Well, they've restructured Deshaun Watson's deal how many times?
Yeah, but he's not. He's probably going to miss the whole season, if not like a giant chunk of it. So who is their quarterback?
Right, but he's technically still on their roster, is what I'm saying.
I meant,
Actually playing.
yeah, I mean, who's going to be their starting quarterback for this
Well,
season?
that's a good question.
Um, let's see. Browns quarterback. I don't even know who's on their roster. Browns quarterback. Oh, I forgot. They just traded for Kenny Pickett.
Oh, they did that today.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing
And,
that now. Yeah,
and
they made the trade with the Eagles.
Eagles got more for Kenny Pickett than the Bears did for Justin Fields.
But can you really call Kenny Pickett a starting quarterback in the NFL?
No, I think it's one of those ones that they they don't want to be painted in that they have to take a quarterback. So they draft or they either trade for a guy, sign a guy, whatever, and they're like, well, this guy's our starter. They're Mike Glennon. They get their Mike Glennon.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. There you
And
go.
so if they don't, and it's saving face really, because if you don't get a guy in the draft, you're like, well, we were really high on Kenny Pickett. He was a first round quarterback just a couple of years ago. We think
Oof.
we can, with Kevin Stefanski, we think we can turn him around and get the most out of him. But if they draft somebody, they were like, well, we just couldn't pass on that. That's the value there. So it's really saving face for them. So you got Kenny Pickett. Ugh. The Browns will be drafting a top pick next year as well. And if I'm the Browns and I know I'm drafting a top pick next year too, I I would just pick the best player available and not worry about it being a quarterback. Let Kenny Pickett just guide you to his next replacement. Texans are set. Um, the
The
Colts.
Colts, what are they going to do?
Oh, they're not. They weren't bad enough to be able to draft a quarterback. I think they got to ride with their dude.
Aren't there rumors they're trying to trade him though?
Yeah, but who's
I don't know. I'm just
like
saying.
who's
I
their?
I don't think they believe in him
I
much
don't
right
think
now.
I don't believe in them. I don't believe in him. But
I thought he was too much of a project for him to be thrown to the starting job right away. They should have had him play behind a veteran, and I think they kind of screwed with his development.
oh, absolutely. But you're in a no man's land. Like you were a 500 team last year. So
Oh yeah, they're yeah, exactly. They're on an island right now.
um so did they go Daniel Jones?
Oh God.
Um
I jokingly tell my friends Aaron Rodgers is available. My friends who are Colts fans, and I tell them Aaron Rodgers is available, and they want to freaking hit me with a book every time.
is Joe Flacco still under contract?
I don't think so. Is he?
I
I don't
think
think.
he,
I don't think he could go that route.
no, I think he is a free agent.
I didn't think so. Yeah, I didn't think he was still there, but that
Yeah,
shouldn't
he's a
be an
free
option
agent.
either way.
No, he's
Yeah.
40. He's 40 years old. So
The Browns thing was kind of a, I don't know. It was kind of a, I don't want an outlier, if you will. I know he's had success in the past, but the dude was sitting on his couch.
um let's see. So you got Anthony. So Colts are definitely in play for a um a quarterback, but not, so keep them in mind. Um the Jags technically have their guy, but I don't believe in him. The Titans need a quarterback. So you got Colts and Titans. Um Eagles got their guy, Commanders got their guy, Cowboys got their guy. The Giants only have one quarterback on their roster, and that's Tommy Cutlets.
Yeah, my boy from Illinois.
So Giants need a quarterback. Rams got a dude. Seahawks got their guy. Cardinals got a dude. 49ers got a dude. Lions got a dude. Vikings. I think they're going to go with JJ.
I mean, I think so too. There's rumors that they could be in on Aaron Rodgers as well, but I feel like they drafted JJ for him to be their guy.
Yeah. So if you're confident he's healthy, I think you got to ride with him.
And they will sign a veteran. I just don't think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson type.
No. Packers, Bears got their guy. Bucks got their guy. Falcons got their guy. Panthers got their guy. Saints are they're kind of stuck with their guy. Um, so really, you've got in that quarterback carousel, you've got Giants, um, Titans, Colts, Browns. My guess is Russell Wilson goes to the Giants. That's my guess.
Have fun in that media if he does.
Oh, uh I'm just waiting for him to say something stupid and the New York media eating him alive.
How dare you? What are you doing?
So who's available still? Trey Lance, Jacoby Brissett, Taylor Heineke, Marcus Mariota, Drew Lock, Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston, Mac Jones, Carson Wentz, Case Keenum, Mason Rudolph, Easton Stick, Cooper Rush, Brandon Allen, Kyle Trask, Josh Johnson, Kyle Allen, Russell Wilson, CJ Beathard, Teddy Bridgewater, Jeff Driscoll, Tim Boyle, Tyler Huntley, Brett Rippon, Bailey Zappi, Desmond Ritter, Sam Ellinger, and Daniel Jones.
There's a lot of backups on that list.
Daniel Jones might get a shot at being a starter.
I think so too.
Um, who else on this list? Somebody might give Mason Rudolph a chance. Does somebody give Jameis Winston another chance?
They shouldn't, but
Does somebody give Jacoby Brissett a chance?
I mean, Jacoby Brissett's he's kind of been that swingman type QB. I don't think it's ideal at this point in his career, but he has started his handful of games before.
He's about to be 33.
Seems like he's been in the league forever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is his 10th year.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching him start games when I was in college.
And then Russell Wilson will get a job. So,
Oh yeah, obviously.
uh, it's man, that quarterback carousel though.
Russell Wilson will be with his third team in 3 years. Went from Denver to Pittsburgh to wherever he ends up.
Well, I mean, he went how many years was he in 2 years in Denver?
Right. So
So
like
he
this
went from
next season,
Seahawks 2 seasons in Denver,
right.
1 season in Pittsburgh, and then wherever he's going to go. Probably, I think it's going to be New York, and I've been pretty good so far at guessing this quarterback carousel. So I think, man, the Titans I think are going to end up drafting Cam Ward out of necessity. The Browns just might ride. Man, you know what? They could try to go Joe Flacco again. I think and let him compete with Kenny Pickett. Like you're not going to win anyway, but I think that might work. Kevin Stefanski with Joe Flacco a couple of years ago was actually a really good match made in heaven. Yeah, I don't know.
We'll see.
We will see. Want to talk a little baseball here?
Sure.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Money doesn't count. Agnostic of money. Based on you're building a team and you need a center fielder. Who are you picking? PCA or Luis Robert? Based on what you think they'll do for the next 3 years, 3 to 5 years.
I mean, I still think Luis Robert has the ceiling of a superstar, and we have seen that. I trust his bat a little bit more in terms of being like a power run producer. But PCA, man, I mean, if he's just a solid hitter with that speed and defense, he's just going to create absolute chaos wherever he plays. That's a tough one.
Right? I mean,
That's a tough
Luis
one.
Robert has, if you're going on potential, Luis Robert he's a 5-tool guy.
Yes, yes.
He's
Like the
just
power
hasn't.
stroke when he's healthy and in his head is in the game is effortless.
Yeah, and he's fast, he's big, he's strong. Just injuries and just has not lived up to his potential.
Yeah.
So who you picking? And I stole this from when Grody was filling in for Mully on the Mully and Haw show. They had this discussion, and I was like, "That's a good discussion."
It is a good discussion. Um, man, I'm tempted. I know I sound biased here because I'm a Cubs fan, but I'm tempted to lean PCA for a reason that I feel like PC. This sounds so cliche and old school, and I usually hate doing this crap, but he seems just so fired up and passionate about the game. And Luis Robert last year, he looked like he wanted nothing to do. And I don't necessarily blame him totally because he was on that deadbeat team when he was supposed to be part of something special and it wasn't. But man, I feel like PCA is always in it, you know? He's got that excitement, that energy that is just infectious. I think Luis Robert is more talented of a hitter. And I think a peak Luis Robert is probably an overall better producer. But just that fire that PCA brings, I don't know. It kind of captivates me. Let's just say that. But that's a tough question to answer right now. I mean, if you would have asked me a year or so ago, I'd say Luis Robert hands down. Now, it's a little harder.
Yeah, so the Cubs are going to have a weird thing where they're going to go to Tokyo, play an exhibition game, then play regular season games, come back, play some more spring training games, and then start the rest of the regular season.
Yeah.
I mean, I get why you're doing it is give them a little acclimation over there and then come back and then kind of acclimate before you're playing regular season games, but and you're trying to build the game over there, but that's weird.
Yeah. I mean, like I said before, just beyond the Tokyo series, the first month, the schedule is brutal. And I'm scared they're going to dig themselves into another hole because of that. I know I sound defeatist there, but at the same time, if you are legit, then you got to be legit. You know, you got to play legit teams. And
And it's
you
true.
know, you just hope that again, it's that Chicago sport defeatist attitude, but you just hope nothing happens during this whole ordeal. You're going halfway around the world.
Um, so yeah, I mean, not much else other than that. But
Hey, Matt Shaw looks healthy again. That's pretty
yeah,
big.
yeah, I'm hearing that there's potential he could go over to Tokyo. I don't know if he
Yeah,
will.
they haven't ruled it out. I still wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't go, but the fact that he looks healthy is a good sign. And it's spring training, it doesn't really mean anything, but you look at what some of your potential depth is doing, like John Birdie is a solid bench player that could fill in for a time being. Um, I don't know how much stock I put into the Gage Workman thing, but there are a lot of people that are high on him, so maybe they did find something there. I don't know, but you hope so because he's had a really good spring, and you need all the productive depth that you can get. So we'll see what happens there. Ian Haps looked good. Uh, Kyle Tucker finally got his first hit. I wasn't really worried, but he finally got that first hit, a home run the other day. So yeah, you just want to keep most of your guys healthy. You don't want to lose any starting pitching, that's for sure. Javier Assad is hurt, but everybody else, knock on wood for the time being, you don't want to lose anybody else. But unfortunately, in baseball, you're seeing a lot of injuries. Look at Garrett Cole. You hear about him out for the year.
Yeah, I saw that. Having
Huge
Tommy
blow for the
John.
Yankees.
That's
Yeah.
a bad one. Bad,
Yeah.
bad, bad. Um, let's quickly wrap this up with the NHL had their trade deadline, um, and the Blackhawks made a couple of more moves. We already talked about the Seth Jones, and they got Spencer Knight, and Soderblom had already replaced Peter Mrazek as the primary goaltender, and when they brought Spencer Knight in, Spencer has been playing really well.
Yes, he has. I mean, those he's won the first two games, including his debut, obviously, and then the exciting Connor Bedard overtime win. He got the win there, and they had like what, five straight games with a point. And
Yeah.
what was really fun was the fact that you saw a game where the Friday night game, the win over Utah in overtime, where obviously Bedard scored the OT goal. You saw Spencer Knight make some big saves. You saw Colton Dock and Frank Nazar with a breakaway. It was a penalty shot goal. Haven't seen one of those in a while. And you saw him just absolutely bury it, which was absolutely beautiful. You're seeing the young kids do some things, and today it's an arty party.
Yeah. So their first round pick is making his debut tonight. But Spencer Knight, I've been very impressed by him. He's still only 23 years old.
Love the
Uh,
demeanor.
and yeah, and you look and you're like, okay, that is turning out to be a good trade. Seth Jones got to 30. You get out from under most of his contract, and he gets to go to somewhere he's happier where they could win, and you get your goalie, potentially your goalie of the future. But then that left you with Peter Mrazek, who's under contract for like two more this season and next season, and he doesn't fit into your plans at all.
Right. No,
So
he served his purpose here, and now you move on. And he handled it with class.
yeah, and so they found a trade partner for him. They paired him with Craig Smith, who's 200 years old, and you got Joseph Valino, who was a highly touted prospect, just has been disappointing. And I feel bad because the guy talked about, a couple weeks ago how they were just starting to win some games in Detroit, and it was nice to not be on a losing team, having something to play for, and try to make a playoff push. And then he gets traded to the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Um, but I think they view him as the potential fourth line center going forward.
I mean, honestly, what you get from that is a bonus. I mean, really, you were just trying to move Mrazek off, and he returns to Detroit where he started. And I think that him being on a good team now, he can have a chance to make the playoffs is cool for him. Like I said, he served his purpose here, but um, anything you get really is a bonus. You weren't going to expect much from trading away a veteran goaltender like that.
No, but it was, I mean, to get Volino is a guy that is a lottery ticket, I guess. He's 25. And if he ends up being successful as your fourth line center, um,
Oh, you'll
you're
take it. Yeah,
you'll take that
absolutely.
any day of the week. And getting out from under Mrazek's contract when he's 33, 34 years old, and he's been replaced on your depth chart. You're not going to send that guy at almost or a $4.5 million cap hit down to Rockford. So you just needed to move him, and you move Craig Smith, who is 200 years old and slow, and you you got rid of those, and you saved some cap room, and you got a lottery ticket. I think that was a very good trade.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then the other trade uh, is the Blackhawks took on the corpse of Shea Weber's contract.
Who's
And
already in
how
the Hall of Fame?
how long before you see somebody with a Shea Weber Blackhawks jersey?
Oh, I was joking the other day. I'm like, they should sell Shea Weber jerseys anyway at the United Center, even though he's long retired and already inducted into the Hall of Fame.
And so you essentially pick up his contract to help you meet the NHL salary cap floor,
Hmm.
and you get two young players, um, Aku Rocky Roddy and Victor Soderstrom. and one of them is playing in like Sweden, and apparently they like him, that they want to bring him over next year, because he's been very good over there. So, I mean, uh,
Maybe a diamond in the rough.
maybe. So you get a 24-year-old defenseman that you're excited about. And Roddy is a guy that's and in baseball, we'd call him probably a quadruple A player,
Mm-hmm.
but you send him down to Rockford and he's probably a good player in Rockford, and, helps Rockford play better. But the other guy, yeah, you could bring him over it's for the rights to him. So you could bring him over to the NHL next year and have another young defenseman, and he's playing really well.
Yeah.
So at first I was like, oh my God, why didn't they weaponize taking on that contract? And then I'm like, oh, now that I hear that they like the defenseman, maybe they feel they weren't going to get like a very high draft pick. Maybe they liked this guy better than a draft pick that could have been attached to it. So, but yeah, Shea Weber, Chicago Blackhawk legend.
Heck yeah. The winner of the hardest shot competition. Remember that guy could blast it.
Yeah, he absolutely could. Absolutely could.
Hell, he should come back and suit up for one game, even though he's probably going to be on long-term IR. So it wouldn't even be possible.
Yeah. But you're not gonna try to get out of that contract for cap purposes because you need it.
Right.
Because even after taking on his $8 million salary, you still have like $30 million in cap space.
Just funny picturing Shea Weber sitting at his house and all of a sudden his checks that are coming in have the Blackhawks insignia on it.
Right. And then they didn't trade Ryan Donato, and apparently they're working on a extension with him, which I think is the smart thing to do.
Yeah, and I honestly don't know if he's ever going to play this well again, but, I kind of wanted to keep a guy like him around because they were probably exploring trades, and you got to think that they weren't getting the value they think they could have gotten for him. I mean, is trading a guy who could potentially be a nice piece for you going forward worth like another second round pick when you already have millions of them?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you've got to get guys into the NHL roster,
Right, exactly.
and you've got so much cap space.
And you heard Kyle Davidson, he spoke at the deadline saying that, they're ready to start making those types of moves this offseason.
Yeah, they should. They should very well do that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you want to discuss?
Nope, I think I've said my piece.
All right. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the the NFL free agency goes. Today was just day one, but I think we got all the juice, the major juice out of the way. But that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe, however you listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. Have a grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter/X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.